Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoterica, another episode of the Unported playlist where we take a look at some of my favorite unported arcade games of all time. Today we're taking a look at Space Gun, a 2D light gun based game released by Taito in the arcades only. And if you've been watching the channel whatsoever, you know I absolutely love light gun games, so it's not surprising that this is going to be showing up on the series. Before we get too far involved though, if you could do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like, subscribe, ring that notification bell, definitely helps me out. If you feel so inclined, we have a Patreon link down there as well if you want to support the channel. Now, I'm not going to lie and say Space Gun is one of the A-tier light gun games. It's definitely a B-tier game, but I love everything about it. It kind of just feels like an absolute ripoff of the Aliens game for the arcades from Sega. You're in space, you're going into a ship, there's an alien infestation, you need to shoot said aliens. So it's not the most original concept whatsoever, but honestly, what is for video games? Everything's derivative of something, so I'm really going to forgive all of that, because I really enjoy what this game is. You'll see here, just starting out in the first level, it's all sprite scaling based. It feels like you're really moving through a 3D area, but you're dealing with it in just entirely 2D. And I love all the different enemies that you're going to be facing. They're tough to beat, and you can shoot their heads clean off, and they're still going to run at you. You'll see here that there are some hostages running towards us, and as long as you don't shoot them, you're going to rescue them. And your score and some of the different things that can happen in the game are going to be directly related to how many of those hostages you save. In the beginning areas, it's really not that hard to not shoot them, but as you get further into the game, it becomes quite difficult. This is the type of game that you could definitely memorize and get better at, because everything happens in the exact same way. But it's just a lot of fun. You'll see there you can shoot different icons on the walls, and you're going to get different power-ups. We have fire, we have ice, we have lightning, and you're really going to want to deal with that resource management, because some of the bosses are quite hard, and they're going to be difficult if you don't have the right items. You'll see there I just froze an enemy, and I was able to just shatter him with my regular bullets quite easily. So there's a lot of strategy involved in this game, and I really like that, because in a lot of light gun games, the only strategy you really have is to shoot the enemy in front of you before they attack you. And I do like the fact that this game just adds a little bit more depth to the overall formula. Now, of course, being an arcade light gun game, you're only going to get a few plays out of this before you've kind of seen everything. But that is the great thing about emulation. I'm running this on MAME and it runs perfectly fine. I had no issues whatsoever. Is that we're not really throwing quarters into this. We're not adding this to our personal PCB collection. This is the type of game I would not buy a PCB for this, and I'm a huge light gun gaming fan, but this board can be pretty expensive, and I don't really want to dedicate the money to buying it, so to have it available on emulation is amazing. And these enemies here, they kind of look half like a stingray and half like a hammerhead shark. There's definitely an aquatic theme going on, and Taito liked using aquatic monsters for their game, so it's not surprising, but it just looks fun and different. And I do like the fact here as well, you can choose your direction. Some are going to be easier than others, some are going to lead to different outcomes, but no matter what you do, you're always going to be getting this nice action. And I appreciate the fact that there is a little bit of soundtrack, but for the most part, you're just kind of hearing the atmospheric noises of being in the ship. So it's not beating you over the head the entire time with a lot of soundtrack. It's actually letting you feel like you are there, at least from a sound perspective. And that's definitely an interesting concept for a game, because most of the time they have a lot of soundtrack layered up in the background. And everything is pretty much interactable. You'll see here we have this nice rotating, I don't know what that is, core reactor in the background, but we're able to shoot all these windows out. And in some instances, you don't want to shoot windows or areas of the wall, because that'll release more enemies. But everything you can interact with, whether it's glass, whether it's an icon on the wall that's going to give you another power-up, there's always things going on. And now we're getting these strange mouth spheres coming onto the screen, and you'll see they kind of look like something, I won't say it, but some of the people you're supposed to save can actually turn into monsters, and you don't want to let them get too close to you. Or now in this instance, some of the people we need to rescue are going to be cocooned up, and you need to make sure that you shoot the cocoon, but not them. It can be quite difficult. You have that spaceman there in his suit. You're never quite sure in later levels if the person you're rescuing is actually someone you need to prevent shooting, or if they're going to come close to you and really hit you. Now, as far as if this game is hard or not, I probably spent about $10 in virtual quarters to play it, which for an arcade game really wouldn't be considered that bad, but it's definitely not the easiest thing in the world either. But I do love all the bosses as well. We get this giant snake coming out, and it kind of looks like he has the same skull as the Predator. You'll see there, we freeze him, we shoot him, and we're able to shatter him and get out of the boss fight earlier. So that weapons and resource management aspect does become really important. But you can move outside as well. You get these space scenes going to a different base, and now it almost feels more like a game of Space Harrier than it does a light gun game. But I'm going to let you watch a little bit of this until we get back inside so you can hear some of the sound effects and the very light atmospheric music. And I'll be back in about a minute and we'll talk more about Space Gun, but we're going to get a very big set piece here that kind of feels like we're in Independence Day before that movie ever existed. But enjoy what you're seeing, and I'll be back in about a minute. We'll talk more about Space Gun. And now we're moving back inside to get to the next base. This game does have a decent amount of story. I mean, granted, it's an arcade game, and whatever story is there is never the best that's ever written, but it definitely tries its best at telling you a decent story. And I also really like the different environments we're traveling through, because you're going to start seeing shortly, the further into these bases we get, the less base-like they start looking, and the more alien world they start looking. You're going to start seeing things develop on the walls that are showing that bigger infestation. But it's a fun game. It's not going to show up on any list of top 10 best light gun shooters of all time. It's not going to show up on any list of top 20 arcade games made by Taito of all time. But that doesn't mean it's not good. It's a lot of fun. I really enjoy it, and I think you will too. Like I said earlier on the channel, I am definitely inclined to like these type of games because it's one of my favorite genres around. Kind of like how people that love fighting games may love B-tier fighters, and I don't even really bother with them because I don't think they're that great, and it's not my favorite genre. But the enemies are fun, all the sprites are big, they're colorful, the music is great. There's a lot of fun to be had with this game, and I can't recommend enough that you do check it out. If you like sci-fi shooters, if you liked Alien 3 on the Sega System 32, a video I've showed on the channel before, you're definitely going to like Space Gun as well. And I mean, Taito wasn't known for their light gun games, things like this. They were definitely known for other genres, but it's fun to see their take on something like this game. And I do remember seeing a cabinet for this at my local arcade in the early 90s, but it's the only time I've ever seen it. I haven't seen one since, and I haven't seen a PCB for sale. Granted, I haven't been hunting for them that much, but if I saw it for $100, $150, it might be something that I was actually willing to pick up because I think I might enjoy it at that price. But if you're looking for another light gun game to play, I definitely recommend you do check this out. And there's not that many Taito arcade games that didn't get home ports. Of all the companies that I cover on Unported playlists, they're one of those companies that doesn't show up that much, because even stuff like their Taito F3 board, which is one of my favorite arcade boards of all time, about 90% of the games on that board did receive home ports. They just seem to be a company that was much more inclined to bring everything home that they could, versus somebody like Sega or Konami, which just left like 75% of their arcade output locked down to arcades. But I will find some more Taito games to cover on the channel moving forward, but this is definitely one of those that you definitely would enjoy. And I think just the main reason why it wasn't ported is because this came out so early in the 90s that by the time there was home hardware that could accommodate something like Space Gun, these type of games weren't as popular. People wanted full 3D, which is unfortunate because I could definitely see this being a release for the PlayStation 1 or the Saturn and having a lot of fun with it. But I just love everything about it. As we move further into the ship, now all of a sudden the walls are made out of flesh and it looks like there's ribs or teeth coming out of them. It just changes enough to give you a lot of fun. But short of that, if you could do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe, and that notification bell. I appreciate it. We will be back next Sunday with an episode in the Unported playlist series of games, and I will have videos on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday as well. But you'll see here we're fighting this gigantic armored horned boss, and I just love the design of it. It's like a praying mantis combined with a spider, and we have all those people that we need to save spun up on webs on the wall. And once you get past this first stage, he turns into this flying alien head. You're never quite sure what's going on, but you know you're enjoying playing it and looking at it. Short of that, we really appreciate you guys watching. Hope you have a great rest of your weekend, and we'll see you guys next Sunday. Bye-bye.